Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we are talking about the Green Reaper Ranger.
Yes.
This one is from Grim Hollow campaign setting. If you're new to the channel or the series, what we're going to do is go through all the abilities gained in the subclass. We're going to rate the roleplay, combat, and synergy based on the abilities gained, how they improve on the base class abilities. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to be entered in our D&D Beyond bundle giveaway.
Free stuff!
All that being said, let's get right into it.
We're going to get some extra Green Reaper spells to pick from. I couldn't resist it. I threatened when I was going to do it in the video. I let him be surprised. He didn't think I was going to do it because I didn't do it at the start of the video. I got him anyway. We've got Detect Poison and Disease, Hold Person, Bestow Curse, Greater Invisibility, and Cloud Kill for these extra Ranger spells. We also have the Envenomed attack. You can use your Poisoner's Kit as a bonus action to coat a weapon or 20 pieces of ammunition with a dose of toxic poison. For the next minute, each time you deal damage with the weapon or ammunition, you deal an additional 1d4 poison damage. You do this number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and expended uses of this feature are recovered at the end of a long rest. At 11th level, the additional damage increases to 2d4 poison damage. Also, the expended uses of this feature are recovered at the end of a short or long rest.
Yeah, that's a huge scale buff, which is
double
great.
the damage and
Short
significantly
rest.
faster recovery time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then where things get really interesting, really quickly as well, because this is also at 3rd level, we get Toxic Tradecraft.
Mm-hmm.
You gain proficiency with Poisoner's Kits, and your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check that uses this proficiency. Additionally, when you gain the feature, you also gain a Poisoner's Kit. If you ever lose the kit, you can spend 8 hours creating a replacement by harvesting venomous fauna, toxic flora, etc.
Yep.
As a final benefit of this feature, once per turn when you hit a creature with a weapon or ammunition enhanced by your Envenomed attack feature, you can spend a spell slot to apply a magical toxin to the attack. Toxin deals an additional 1d6 poison damage, and the creature is poisoned until the end of your next turn. The toxin has additional effects based on the spell slot expended casting the spell. This additional effect is detailed at the end of the subclass description, which we will do here in just a minute.
Yes.
And they last to the end of your next turn unless otherwise noted in the description. It is important to note that does only last for that short period of time.
Yes.
But the better part to it is there's no save involved.
No.
You just use the spell slot and you get the poisoned condition
Plus an extra
plus
effect.
extra damage and the additional toxin effect.
Yes.
Which we will go through the rest of the abilities first, and then we'll head back and look at the actual toxin effects at the end.
Okay, got it. So, at level 7, we also get Poison Control. So you gain resistance to poison damage, have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned yourself. In addition, you can cast the Protection from Poison spell without expending a spell slot, and can do so a number of times equal to your Wisdom modifier, regaining all uses when you finish a long rest.
All right. You also get... You did this to me on purpose, didn't you?
Variegated Vexations.
Yeah, we're going to go with that. Variegated Vexation. Sometimes we look up these words because we have no idea, but we're just going to go with this one. At 11th level, when you apply a toxin granted by your Envenomed attack feature, you can choose to change the additional damage to acid or necrotic instead of poison.
Juicy.
So yeah, because poison is a very common damage type.
Yeah.
So being able to switch it to acid, which is much more reliable, or necrotic if you're not fighting undead, as Alex would say, is a great addition. It's very simple.
I say it because
It can be
it's true.
very effective, but simple.
And finally is Pain Tolerance. After you take damage from an attack, you can use your reaction to gain temporary hit points equal to the damage.
Okay.
You lose all temporary hit points gained from this feature at the end of your next turn.
It's
Period. End of sentence.
Yeah, it's interesting, which we will get to here in a minute in the rating section. But before we get there, let's go over these toxin effects. You're going to get...
There's a fistful of them.
Yeah, there are. There's
actually multiple choices at each level.
Yes. So, depending on the spell slot you use,
Yep.
we have first level effects here. This is when you use a first level or higher, you can add one of these additional effects. You can choose one of 3. The first is Attenuate. While a creature is poisoned by this toxin, it has disadvantage on strength and dex saving throws. We also have Befuddled. While a creature is poisoned, it cannot speak, read, or write any language and has disadvantage on saves made to maintain concentration on spells.
Yeah.
That's great for the Mage Slayer.
It's like for a level 1, that's not bad.
You guys remember, you are a half-caster, so you don't get a ton of spell slots. So it better be effective.
That's right.
The last option for first-level spells is uncoordinated. While they're poisoned by the toxin, it can't take reactions or the disengage or dodge action. So, there you go. Level 1.
Level 2. We have either the choices of Debilitate. The creature can't regain hit points for the next minute. So that one specifies a longer time frame. So that's important to keep in mind. Potent. If the creature has resistance to poison damage, it loses that resistance for the next minute, which is great, especially before you have access to changing the damage type from to acid or necrotic. And then Suffer. For the next minute, the first time the creature takes poison damage each turn, it takes an additional 1d6 poison damage.
That's just like a constant. Every time you're hitting, you're doing that. Mm-hmm. Third level effects. We have Lingering. Instead of ending at the end of your next turn, the creature continues to be poisoned for 10 minutes. At the end of each of the creature's turns, it can make a Constitution saving throw using your spell save DC. If the creature accumulates 3 successes, which do not have to be consecutive, the poison condition ends early. Oh, so you might be thinking, oh, it lasts for 10 minutes, and they get to, when they make a save at the end of their turn with a con save, oh, that sucks. But then you're like, wait, they have to make 3 saves?
Yeah.
Oh, that is way better.
So it's guaranteed to last for 3 turns because they have to do 3 successive
The average
saves.
amount of rounds in a combat is 3 to 4. They're probably fine.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid for a third level.
Yeah. And surely they'll fail 1 out of the 4.
No,
I mean, unless you're fighting a big giant thing, but anyway.
Also supernatural. When you deal damage with a weapon attack that has been dosed with the toxin, creature loses immunity to the poison condition if it has such immunity. In addition, instead of ending at the end of your next turn, it continues to be poisoned for 1 minute. At the end of each of the creature's turns, it can make a con save, ending the condition on a success.
Yep.
So that one is at the end of their turns, but that's assuming they're already immune.
Yeah, you're overcoming an immunity.
You are saying you're going to be poisoned
and
for a while.
you'll know, like, you pop just regular attacking on the first turn, it takes no poison damage. It's like,
they're probably also immune to the condition.
They're immune to poison. Okay.
Most
I can fix that.
So those are the third level spell options.
At level 4, because the top 2 chunks are pretty wonderful, you have Flesh Eating. While a creature is poisoned by this toxin, it takes 2d6 acid damage at the start of each of its turns.
I'll take it.
Then we have Insensate. Don't think that's a word, but if we're going to go with it. While the creature is poisoned by this toxin, it is also blinded and deafened.
Oh. You gotta remember, too, the limited time frame on here.
Yes.
But
still, Paraplegia. While a creature is poisoned by this toxin, its movement speed becomes 0. And it has disadvantage on dexterity saving throws.
Yeah, just stay right there.
You just sit that part down.
Level 5 spell options. These are the last ones because you're a half-caster. You have Enhanced, which is you can choose an option for this toxic off of the 4th level list and another off the 1st or 2nd level spell effects. So you get to pick 2 different effects if you wanted to do a wombo combo, for example.
Yeah.
As the kids say these days. Also, we have the Stinging Application. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack that uses this toxin, the attack deals an additional 5d6 damage. This additional damage can be your choice of acid, necrotic, or poison.
So like 99% of the time it's acid.
Most likely.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are all the toxins and all of the abilities gained in the subclass. So let's just jump right into the rating portion. First up is the roleplay asterisk, as always. Talking about roleplay, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order. Not talking about your class fantasy, history, lore, background. That's on you as a player. We can't rate you, but we can rate the abilities gained in the subclass and how they might improve your potential in those role play scenarios. So, looking at this subclass, you get a couple good RP spells. Detect poison and disease, a little bit more on the niche side. Hold person can...
But you're half-cast.
That kind of sums it up. You get limited spell slots, and you also have the toxins, which are going to be very potent and more probably better use in general for your...
The only one of these spells where I'm like... I mean, Great Invisibility would be great for if you really need the RP Super Stealth, for sure.
It's not invisibility. It's only get it for a minute. So you have to have a very specific circumstance where a minute is enough time.
But like the only one of these spells, to me, that you're going to choose to use as opposed to the spell slot there is going to be Hold Person. Because if you got somebody...
Which is also a short duration, but it can... you're trying to sneak by somebody or something. Sure.
The rest of them is like...
They're very niche,
I was just saving spell slots for your other thing in general.
Right. It's probably going to be... I mean, even just... Yeah, it's going to be more efficient, I would say. You do get the expertise with Poisoner Kit, which could come into play. There's a little bit of, like, flavor stuff with remaking your kits and stuff. Okay. But that's more flavor than it is mechanical in that side of things. And depending on your DM, maybe they require you to harvest every so often or something. So that would make this effect more efficient and reliable. That's needed to go along with the subclass. If they feel like something is a little bit wild for whatever reason, or just want to add a little bit more RP to your subclass, they could potentially do that. So you have that option on there. And then you do get the bonus versus poison condition, which can come into play.
Yeah.
I mean, who hasn't been at a tavern, like, drinking contest, at some point in time?
I mean, if you don't have one of those in your campaign,
dwarf or something.
Are you, like, underwater at that point? I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. But yeah, there's some niche stuff on here, mostly on the niche side with the RP, but then it is on consistency. So we went with a 2 out of 5 for the roleplay.
Yep. Combat side of things, obviously, gets a lot more interesting on what this gets to offer you because a lot of this is built around that envenom attack, so you're getting extra poison damage. And I like the fact that you can either choose a weapon and go like 2-weapon fighting, getting in there and hitting stuff with short swords, daggers,
Not all
whatever.
rangers are ranged, Alex.
I mean,
don't you know that?
I know it. It's just like if you take the name of the class and you remove the last letter, what word are you left with?
I mean, I know there's going to be some people that are going to be really set off by those comments, but it's true. Most people that I know do tend to play ranged ranger, as we would say, but I do know of people that have specifically fight for the right of the melee ranger.
Range.
So you have the option for both.
Range. But again, this is one of those that actually does have a viable build for melee ranger because of the way this attack. Because some of the subclasses don't play games with being in there close to people.
That's fair.
This one actually does a lot for that, for sure. Of course, with the toxic tradecraft, making your own poisons and everything, you're dealing additional poison damage on terms of that, which is great. And we'll get to the effects here toward the end. Resistance to poison damage and advantage on that saving throw against the condition. Great. The protection from poison spell, if you're coming across stuff that's, you happen to see it a lot, you can cast it for free. Great, which is very helpful for the fact that, you are a half-caster. But once we hit 11, this is where Alex gets really excited about the subclass because one of my strongest complaints about damage types in general in 5th edition is that people either A, don't realize how great of a damage type acid is, or you realize how great a damage type acid is and are very disappointed by the lack of options that deal acid damage, which makes it not as good because there's just not enough things that do acid damage, or like the spells that do reduced number, because it's like, but Forced Psychic exists, Radiant exists, that do ridiculous amounts of damage. They're not nerfed like that, so it's a weird little bubble. So this one that just says all the little D4s and D6s you're throwing out at stuff now become acid damage, which in 99.9% of scenarios,
it's probably going to be better.
It's better to poison it, because I'd be shocked if there's something that resists acid damage that doesn't also resist poison damage.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of times it's...
One of you is going to know this, or you're going to take the time to tell me that one creature that exists in official rulebook.
Look it up later after we shoot.
I mean, sure. I was like, but that's looking up after we're here. So, All right. Let future self worry about that problem.
I don't worry about that.
Anyway, and of course, finally, the pain tolerance thing is where this really lets you build into melee ranger, because it just says you can take your reaction to gain temporary hit points equal to the damage you're about to take from an individual attack. So basically just use your reaction to negate damage. I mean, you're taking the damage, and then you get temp HP.
Right. So it's really good defense against multi-attack.
Yes.
If you're only getting hit by one massive attack, or there's only one creature attacking and it's only got one massive attack, it's not as effective, obviously, because you have to take the damage.
You're taking the damage first, but you get a shield equal to it.
Right, but then it falls off. At the end of your next turn. So if you're not hit in the meantime,
right,
it kind of falls off.
It does. But like the only time that's not going to be the case by the time you hit level 15 is if James said there's only one thing you're fighting. Right. But how many things
don't have like minions?
Don't have minions, or they don't have multi-attack when they get to level 15. You're fighting, if it's one thing, it's a CR, it's 16, 17, 18, 20 or bigger.
It's basically multi-attack defense.
Pretty much.
It's really, which is going to be...
Or mobs, mobs of stuff.
Swarm defense.
Or swarm defense. Yes. On to the Toxin effects. You're half-caster.
Yep.
That's why I wrote it up on the board, you see.
Take note.
So that is by far the biggest limitation, but I love what this lets you do, because it's like, if I were a paladin, and I wanted to spend my spell slots to smite stuff, but I wanted to be a little bit more creative with it, instead of just like, paladin smash!
Right. Get some utility out of it.
We get some interesting effects, and there's the fact that there's 3, 3, 2, 3, 2 different choices at each of the spell slot levels you get to pick from, and it's not like you have to get to like 3 before they start getting very helpful.
Yeah.
Because even at 1, where it just says they have disadvantage on maintaining concentration concentration on spells. If you're fighting a spellcaster, you're just like, oh, he happened to hold person my dude. I'm like, but I'm about to make your day miserable. There's a way. Getting something, disadvantage on strength and dexterity saving throws. If you have friendly casters throwing fireballs at people, like this really lets you play around with helping yourself do extra damage, debilitating other creatures, helping your allies by debilitating other creatures. There's so much good flexibility, getting around resistances, causing dot damage, heal cutting stuff. Right. I love that exists with this, because there's not a ton of stuff that does heal, but for when it does, you can actually do something about it. But you don't have an entire ability that just does that. Mm-hmm. It's a choice that's in your back pocket. You're basically like Batman with the utility belt with all the different effects you can choose from. But it's not like one of those, when you level up, I only get to pick one of these 3 that's permanent.
Right.
It's just that, okay, I'm spending a level 2 spell slot to do this extra effect. What are we doing? It's like, I haven't seen anybody do any healing, so just take the poison dot.
Right.
Great. And then my favorite thing about the whole bit of it is with a level 5, it just says take a level 4 and a 1 or 2.
Right.
It sounds kind of like almost, you would think maybe it's kind of lazy. It's like, no, I love that. It's just because there is so many choices. Right. There's so much. What's this? So much opportunity cost out there.
Oh, wow.
For what what you have to give up to pick what you want. Mm-hmm. I knew he'd love that. So the fact that it lets you pick 2 different ones, very, very, very strong love for this. The limitations do exist, again, because you're half-caster.
Refer to the board.
Refer to the board again. And it's really built around that quite a bit, except for the defensives and then the damage switch you get. So primarily because of this, and until you get to 11, a lot of stuff does resist poison until you can convert the damage to acid. Right. So we did go with a 4 out of a possible 5 for combat for the Green Reaper.
Yeah. So yes. That being said, we'll just switch right over to the synergy, because
the one time the hard cuts absolutely
as per usual. A lot of the synergy comments tie in with combat.
Sure.
It's how it usually works, because a lot of these things are typically focused on the combat. So, as Alex was saying, the biggest drawback with this is your limited spell slots, and you have to remember too, being a half caster, you're not going to get 3rd level spells until level 9.
Yes.
Okay. You don't get 4th level spells until level 13.
Yep.
And then 17 you get 5th level.
Yeah. So you're a long way off before you're getting these top tier stuff.
Right. So you have to keep that in mind. So these things are very potent. It gives you that. I think my favorite part about this subclass as a whole is there's no saves.
Correct.
So you don't have to worry about your wisdom as a ranger, which is great, because it always feels a little awkward, because the ranger spell list is, let's be honest, it's pretty awful.
Yeah.
So you don't really get a whole lot of utility. You don't really get a whole lot of damage. You just kind of have weird like these weird niche spells that just feel
The
awkward.
only
outside of Hunter's
effects you
Mark.
have to deal with your save are the 2 level 3 effects, which is the lingering and the supernatural. They've got that con save either to end the effect of 1 save or 3 saves. But so if you really don't want to go after your wisdom at all, you can just not do the level 3 effects. If you're afraid of it not hitting, you can just if you end up going like dexterity, con, then need whatever wisdom gets to,
The thing is too,
you don't have to use them.
Like even with lingering, even though it does use your spell save, they have to fail 3 saves. It's gonna last for at least 3 turns. Like even if it takes 3 turns, you're still gonna be okay with it. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna be upset about it.
3 straight times, it's like okay.
So, and the other thing too is you might not even really care that much about it because as long as you have the attacks, once per turn, when you're hitting with your envenom attack, they're going to be poisoned until the end of your next turn. It's a limited time frame, but essentially that's going to be effectively like being constantly up if you're able to keep hitting them. Which is good.
Again, the poison effect, don't forget about what the actual poison condition does to them as far as debilitating goes.
Right.
And that's going to affect them for their turn of combat as well, so they're going to be less effective on their side. Right. Besides just whatever additional effect you choose to use if you do so.
But saying that, you do have number of proficiency uses per rest. At 11 it is short rest, so that's way more efficient. You become way more efficient at 11, but you have to get to 11 before then, because 2 or 3 uses per day. When it's up, it's great because you potentially could be giving something poison condition constantly. Mm-hmm. The other thing you have to keep in mind is the amount of creatures that are resistant to poison damage and or immune to poison condition, which I think is something that could easily be overlooked and could be campaign dependent as well. Yep. So, all that being said, definitely some interesting options. Very potent when they do work, but there are limitations on proficiency use. There's limitations on spell slot use.
Yep. So and it definitely hurts a little bit earlier with the damage type too until you can convert it. This is definitely one of those subclasses where it has, to me, a noticeable power spike at 11.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because of the usage rate basically doubles, and you can cut that poison damage over to acid.
Right.
Huge power spike.
And again, obviously too, the capstone is a great defensive against, especially at higher levels, multi-attack or multi-attackers. Mm-hmm. However you want to look at it, can definitely help.
Yes.
So all that being said, we gave it a 4 in the synergy.
Yes.
As well. So.
And I like the fact it helped out my word for the synergy and the fact that this actually does let you build Melee Ranger if you wanted to.
Right.
And it doesn't get in the way of either playstyle option, really.
Yep, for sure. So it's a very interesting option. I like the extra uses to make your spell slots more effective as a ranger, because half-casters can feel awkward sometimes trying to do like saves and stuff.
And a lot of times I feel like half-casters, if you're not using like a concentration-based buff spell for yourself, your spell slots don't feel as impactful because you're like, I don't have that many of them. What do I do?
So and the thing is, too, with Hunter's Mark, since you get the free poison damage from the envenom attacks, you don't really necessarily have to use your spell slot for Hunter's Mark because it's a D4 versus a D6.
But you sure can.
And you get both.
Because then to me, you definitely not definitely should. But there's a very good case where you should. You just lean into being like super...
Very small.
But if you really want to, once you get 11 and you get the multiple uses, it's like then you get super high floor ranger. Like you can just do like all the little spell slots at a Hunter's Mark and poison. Super high floor ranger.
Yeah. So that's gonna be it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications. When all of our new videos are coming out. Check out our sponsors in the video links down below. And as always, thanks for watching. Go digital this winter. Immerse yourself with the latest release, Lore of Aethera, The Lost Druid. This science fantasy adventure uses cinematic storytelling to bring you a fully immersive experience. There's also the stunning islands of Sina Una, inspired by Filipino mythology and culture. Embark on an epic adventure as birds and other woodland critters in Humblewood. Hundreds of new magic items for your adventure with the Griffin Saddlebag PDF. Check out the Humblewood and Heckna STLs. Support the channel by going to hitpointpress.com for all of your 5e needs.